Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the truly mind-boggling, and at times, utterly awful adventures of a man whose name echoes through history. Marco Polo. Imagine, for a moment, you're living in 13th century Venice. The air hums with the scent of salt and commerce. The canals are bustling arteries of trade, and your world, though vibrant, is still incredibly small. You're a part of a family of merchants, used to the ebb and flow of goods from across the Mediterranean. But the true East, the land of spices and silk, is little more than a whisper on the wind. A fantastical dream. Now, picture this: you're being told to prepare for a journey, not just across the Adriatic, or even to the familiar ports of Alexandria, but farther. So far, in fact, that most people in your city couldn't even point to it on a map, even if they had one that remotely resembled the world. You're talking about a trek across continents, through lands ruled by fierce Khans, over mountains that scrape the sky, and across deserts that swallow men whole. Frankly, if you were actually there, you'd probably not survive the first week. Seriously, forget your artisanal coffee and ergonomic office chairs. You'd be lucky to find potable water and not get speared by a passing nomad. It was a different kind of tough, a level of grit we can barely comprehend from our cozy, heated homes. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening, drop a comment below and let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes to the familiar damp stones and the gentle lapping of water against the foundations of your family home in Venice. It's the late 1200s, and you are Marco Polo, though perhaps not the one history remembers so vividly just yet. You're a young man, barely 17, with the typical dreams and anxieties of any teenager. But yours are about to be drastically reshaped by a world you can scarcely imagine. Your father, Niccolo, and your uncle, Maffeo, are seasoned merchants, men whose faces are etched with the tales of distant lands. Even if those lands are only as far as Constantinople or the Black Sea ports, they speak of exotic spices, rich silks, and glittering jewels. But more importantly, they speak of opportunity, of wealth to be gained from daring voyages. You've grown up hearing these stories, little vignettes of risk and reward, whispered over communal meals in the low light of your Venetian home. Your family, the Polo family, isn't just any merchant house. They are among the more adventurous, already having forged connections and established trade routes that stretch further east than many of their contemporaries. This isn't just about selling goods, it's about navigating political landscapes, understanding different cultures, and always keeping an eye out for profit. You, however, haven't ventured far from the canals that define your existence. Your world is a bustling kaleidoscope of ships arriving from myriad ports, their holds spilling forth with goods, and the cacophony of different languages blending into the unique soundtrack of Venetian commerce. You watch the ships, their sails billowing like ambitions, carrying goods and whispers of the world beyond. Then comes the news. Not a gentle suggestion, but a pronouncement. Your father and uncle, having recently returned from an astonishing journey that took them all the way to the court of the great Khan, Kublai, in distant Cathay, what we now call China, are preparing to leave again. And this time, you, young Marco, are to accompany them. You might imagine a surge of youthful excitement, an immediate embrace of grand adventure, but perhaps there's also a nod of apprehension in your stomach. This isn't some leisurely cruise, it's an expedition into the unknown. A journey that has already claimed countless lives and shattered even the most robust of spirits. This isn't just packing a bag, it's preparing for a complete rupture from everything familiar. everything's safe. The initial preparations are a blur of activity. You witness the careful selection of goods to trade, not just any wares, but items specifically chosen for their value in the East. Gold, of course, always gold, but also precious stones, and perhaps even some of the finer European linens, though these would be minor compared to the sheer volume of goods they hope to bring back. More importantly, there are letters and gifts from the Pope himself, intended for the Great Khan. This journey isn't purely commercial, it carries a diplomatic weight, a mission to connect the distant realms of Christianity with the vast, burgeoning empire of the Mongols. You might feel a surge of pride, a sense of gravitas at this mission, though initiated by your family's mercantile ambitions, now carries the blessing of the highest spiritual authority in your world before you even step foot outside Venice. You are already learning. Your father and uncle share snippets of their previous journey, cautionary tales and vital lessons. They speak of the vastness of the land, the incredible distances that separate one oasis from the next. The stark realities of desert travel. They describe the different peoples they encountered, their customs, their languages, the subtle nuances of negotiation that could mean the difference between a successful trade and a brutal robbery. You listen intently, perhaps a little wide-eyed, trying to absorb every detail, every warning. They tell you about the resilience needed, the mental fortitude to endure weeks, months, even years of relentless travel. They paint a picture of a world both wondrous and terrifying, a place where riches could be found, but also where life was cheap and quickly extinguished. The day of departure arrives. You stand on the docks, looking back at the familiar skyline of Venice, the iconic bell tower of St. Mark's, the gondolas bobbing gently on the canals. A final glance at your family, friends, and the life you've known. There's a solemnity to the moment, a quiet understanding that this isn't just a trip, it's a profound transition. You board a ship, perhaps a sturdy cog, designed for the rigors of sea travel. The initial leg of your journey will be by sea, a relatively swift passage across the Mediterranean to the Levant, the eastern shores. This is the easier part, the gentle introduction to a voyage that will eventually stretch for thousands upon thousands of miles, taking you further than almost any European of your time has ever dared to venture. As the ship pulls away from the Venetian docks, you feel the gentle sway of the vessel, the tang of the salt spray on your face, and the vast expanse of the open sea ahead. The city recedes into the distance, its familiar outlines blurring until it's just a smudge on the horizon. Your thoughts might drift back to the comfort of your bed, the warmth of your hearth, the familiar chatter of your neighbors. This is the moment of no return, the true commencement of your epic, and perhaps awful, adventure. You're leaving behind not just a city, but an entire way of life. Stepping into a world that will challenge every assumption, every comfort, every ounce of your resilience. You are, in essence, becoming a different person with every nautical mile and every dusty footprint you leave behind. You sail along the sun-drenched Mediterranean, the journey relatively calm and uneventful compared to what lies ahead. The sea, for now, is your highway, carrying you swiftly towards the Levant. You observe the rhythm of life on board the sailors tending to the sails, the quiet conversations of your father and uncle planning the next leg of the journey, the ever-present smell of tar and salt. Each day brings you closer to shores you've only heard whispers of. Acre, Baghdad, the lands that serve as the gateway to the true East. You feel a growing sense of anticipation, tempered by the daunting scale of the undertaking. This is still familiar territory for merchants, but the further you travel, the more the air changes, the landscapes shift, and the languages become more unfamiliar. This is a common historical fact. The Mediterranean was the highway of trade, connecting Europe to the Near East for centuries. The initial port of call is likely Acre, a bustling crusader city on the coast of what is now Israel. you disembark into a whirlwind of activity, a melting pot of cultures, religions, and languages. Knights in chainmail rub shoulders with Arab merchants, pilgrims, and local artisans. The air is thick with the aroma of spices, the cries of vendors, and the chatter of a dozen different tongues. This is a place of transition, a last bastion of European influence before you truly step into the vastness of Asia. You might feel a sense of unease, a prickling awareness of the different customs and laws that govern this land. The relative safety of Venice is far behind you now. From Acre, your journey begins to take on a more arduous character. You head inland, likely traveling by caravan, a slow, deliberate procession of camels laden with goods and supplies. The landscape shifts dramatically, from the fertile coastal plains to the arid, rocky terrain of the interior. You learn the rhythm of caravan life the early morning starts before the sun becomes unbearable. The long hours under the relentless glare, the preciousness of water, and the constant vigilance against bandits and opportunistic raiders. Your father and uncle, seasoned travelers, guide you through the intricacies of negotiating with local tribes, bribing officials, and ensuring the safety of your party. This is not just about moving from one place to another. It's about survival in a harsh and unforgiving environment. You pass through ancient lands, some still bearing the scars of past conflicts, others thriving under new rulers. You might travel through parts of Armenia, then into Persia, modern-day Iran, a land of stark contrasts, verdant oases blooming amidst vast, desolate plains. The architecture changes, the faces of the people change, and the very air seems to hum with a different energy. You encounter different faiths, different customs, all of which challenge your preconceived notions of the world. One lesser-known detail about this early part of the journey is the significant role that various Christian communities, often Nestorian Christians, played as intermediaries and guides along the Silk Road, providing a network of support for travelers like the Polos. This network, though not always visible, was a crucial part of how trade and communication flowed across such vast distances. As you push further east, the journey becomes an exercise in endurance. The days blend into weeks, weeks into months. You experience the searing heat of the deserts, the bitter cold of the mountain passes. You learn to conserve water, to ration food, and to find comfort in the smallest moments of respite. You see sights that few Europeans of your time have ever witnessed: ancient ruins swallowed by the sands, bustling bazaars overflowing with exotic goods, and the silent, imposing beauty of landscapes untouched by human hands. There's a certain grim humor in it all, a dark jest that only those who face such relentless challenges can understand. You might chuckle to yourself at some absurd moment, a camel refusing to move, or a sudden sandstorm that forces you to huddle for shelter. The academic debate still rages among historians as to the exact route Marco Polo took during these initial stages of his journey. Particularly through regions like Afghanistan and the Pamir Mountains, the lack of precise geographical markers in his own accounts, combined with the sheer number of possible paths, makes it a fascinating puzzle for scholars. Was it through the northern routes, skirting the Caspian Sea, or more directly south through Persia? The details remain elusive, adding to the mystique of his travels. What is certain, however, is the sheer scale of the endeavor, a testament to the iron will and unwavering determination of the Polo family. You are, in every sense of the word, a pioneer, venturing into territories that remain, for most, the stuff of legend and rumor. You encounter dangers beyond just the elements. Bandits are a constant threat, lurking in mountain passes or along isolated stretches of road, always on the lookout for vulnerable caravans. You learn to travel with an armed escort, to maintain vigilance and to rely on the collective strength of your fellow travelers. Disease is another insidious enemy, striking down the weak and making even the strongest among you vulnerable. You witness the harsh realities of life on the road, where a simple fever could quickly turn fatal. and where medical assistance is often non-existent. You learn to be resourceful, to adapt, and to rely on your instincts. This isn't just a business trip, it's a constant struggle for survival against a world that seems actively designed to test your limits. The days are marked by the rhythmic plod of your caravan, the creak of the saddles, and the low murmur of conversations. Nights are spent under the vast, star-dusted skies, the silence broken only by the crackle of a campfire and the distant howls of wild animals. You learn to sleep lightly, always aware of your surroundings, always ready to react. You witness the incredible beauty of the natural world, from the snow-capped peaks of towering mountains to the endless expanse of the desert, its dunes shifting like waves in a petrified ocean. This stark beauty is often accompanied by an equally stark emptiness, a reminder of your isolation and vulnerability. You begin to understand the true meaning of patience. The journey is not measured in days or weeks, but in the slow, deliberate progression of miles, each one hard-won. You learn to appreciate the small comforts of fresh spring of water, a sheltered spot to rest, the camaraderie of your fellow travelers. You become intimately familiar with the patterns of the stars, using them as a guide, just as sailors use them at sea. Your connection to the familiar world of Venice slowly fades, replaced by the immediate realities of the road, the dust, the sun, and the wind. You are becoming a man of the East, shaped by its vastness and its unforgiving beauty. You continue your relentless march eastward, the dust becoming a constant companion, coating your clothes, your skin, and even settling in your very soul. You are now deep into Persia, a land of ancient empires and stark beauty. The landscapes shift dramatically, from vast arid plains where the horizon shimmers with heat, to occasional fertile oases, veritable paradises of date palms and cool springs, offering a brief respite from the harsh realities of the journey. These moments of lushness are fleeting, however, serving as poignant reminders of the fragility of life in this unforgiving environment. You see the remnants of civilizations long past, crumbling mud brick cities swallowed by the sands, monuments to forgotten kings and empires. It's a humbling sight, a stark lesson in the impermanence of even the grandest human endeavors. Your caravan, a small moving village of merchants, guards, and servants, becomes your entire world. You learn to rely on the camaraderie of your fellow travelers, sharing stories, hardships, and the occasional meager comforts. The days are long, marked by the rhythmic plod of the camels and the relentless glare of the sun. The nights, however, bring a different kind of beauty. Under the vast, inky canopy of the desert sky, the stars blaze with an intensity you've never witnessed in Venice. Countless pinpricks of light against an infinite blackness. It's a moment for quiet contemplation, for reflecting on the sheer scale of the world and your tiny place within it. You might find yourself staring up, feeling both utterly insignificant and profoundly connected to something ancient and immense. This particular observation, the intensity of the stars in the desert, is a common historical anecdote from travelers of the period, often noted for its striking beauty compared to the light, polluted skies of European cities. The dangers of the Silk Road are not merely environmental. Bandits are a persistent threat, their shadows lurking at the edges of your awareness. These aren't just common thieves, they are often well-organized groups, intimately familiar with the terrain, preying on vulnerable caravans. Your father and uncle, veterans of these routes, employ local guards, experienced warriors who understand the subtle signs of danger and can anticipate an ambush. You learn to sleep with one ear open, to interpret the shifting winds, and to trust your instincts. There are tales whispered around the campfire of caravans annihilated, of merchants disappearing without a trace. And these stories serve as a constant, chilling reminder of the stakes involved. You might find yourself gripping the hilt of your dagger a little tighter as you drift off to sleep. It's a grim reality, but one that imbues every successful passage with a deep sense of accomplishment. You've earned every mile, every safe passage. One of the more peculiar challenges you face is the simoon, a hot, dry, suffocating wind that sweeps across the desert, carrying fine sand and dust. It's not just uncomfortable, it can be disorienting, even deadly, especially if you're caught exposed. The air turns thick and heavy. Visibility drops to almost nothing, and the very act of breathing becomes a struggle. You learn to quickly set up temporary shelters, to cover your mouth and nose with cloth, and to hunker down, waiting for the fury of the wind to pass. It's a terrifying experience, a reminder of nature's raw, untamed power, and it often feels like the desert itself is trying to swallow you whole. You might even find a moment of dark humor in the sheer absurdity of trying to keep sand out of your teeth while the world around you turns into a blurry, gritty haze. Just another Tuesday on the Silk Road. You might quip to yourself, a wry smile hidden beneath your dust-covered scarf. As you move deeper into the heart of Asia, you begin to encounter different cultures, each with its own unique customs, languages, and beliefs. In Persia, you observe the intricate patterns of Islamic art and architecture, the call to prayer echoing across ancient cities. You interact with merchants from India, their faces marked by different features, their goods perfumed with exotic spices. You see the distinctive clothing of the Turkic peoples, skilled horsemen who command vast stretches of the steppes. This exposure to such a diverse tapestry of humanity is profound. Far beyond anything you could have imagined in Venice, you realize that your small European world is just one thread in a much larger, more intricate tapestry. One specific, often overlooked detail about your journey through Persia is the existence of the Ismaili assassins in the mountain fortresses of Alamut, while you might not directly encounter them in a hostile manner. Their reputation precedes them. Travelers whisper tales of a secretive sect, highly disciplined and feared, who carried out political assassinations with chilling precision. The very mention of their name, or the sight of their strongholds high in the mountains, would send a shiver down your spine, a potent reminder that even beyond the natural dangers, human intrigue and fanaticism could be just as lethal. The academic debate among historians still centers on the precise extent of the assassins' influence and the true nature of their activities, with some arguing that many of the more fantastical stories about them were embellished by fearful outsiders. Nevertheless, their presence in the region was a palpable threat. Adding another layer of anxiety to an already perilous journey, your father and uncle, with their vast experience, navigate these cultural complexities with practiced ease. They teach you the importance of understanding local customs, of showing respect, and of the delicate art of negotiation. You learn that a slight gesture, a misplaced word, or a perceived insult could have severe consequences. You observe their patience, their shrewdness, and their ability to adapt to any situation. They teach you to listen more than you speak, to observe more than you judge. This hands-on education in diplomacy and human nature is invaluable, forging you into a more astute and resilient individual. The food, too, undergoes a dramatic transformation. Gone are the familiar flavors of Venetian cuisine. Now, you partake of communal meals, often prepared over open fires, consisting of roasted meats, flatbreads, and whatever local grains and vegetables can be procured. The spices are bolder, the flavors more intense. A sensory assault that slowly becomes a comforting familiarity. You learn to appreciate the simplicity and sustenance of these meals, recognizing that in these vast, empty lands, every bite is a blessing. You might even find yourself missing a good Venetian seafood dish, a fleeting thought amidst the constant stream of new sensations. A plate of spaghetti would hit different right now, you might muse. A wistful thought that quickly fades as you focus on the present. The journey through Persia feels endless. Each day is a repetition of the one before it wake. Pack, ride, eat, sleep, and repeat. Yet, within this monotony, there are moments of profound beauty and unexpected encounters. You might stumble upon an ancient caravanserai, a fortified inn along the trade route, offering shelter and safety for travelers. These are bustling hubs of activity, where merchants from distant lands exchange news, goods, and stories. The air is thick with the scent of camel dung, spices, and cooking fires. You hear a babble of languages, a symphony of human enterprise. These caravanserai become temporary homes, vital links in the vast chain of the Silk Road, providing a precious sense of community in an otherwise solitary existence. You continue to climb, gradually gaining elevation as you approach the formidable mountain ranges that guard the approaches to the Central Asian steppes. The air grows thinner, colder, and the vegetation becomes sparse, giving way to rocky, desolate landscapes. The beauty of these mountains is stark and imposing, their peaks often shrouded in mist or capped with snow even in the height of summer. The paths become narrower, winding precariously along sheer cliffs, demanding unwavering focus and a steady hand. The camels, surprisingly agile for their size, pick their way carefully, their hooves finding purchase on the treacherous terrain. This ascent into the mountains marks another distinct phase of your journey, a shift from the endless plains to the vertical challenges of the world. The cold bites at your exposed skin, and the wind howls through the passes, a mournful, constant companion. You learn to bundle yourself in layers of wool and fur, to huddle close to the fire at night, and to appreciate the warmth of a shared blanket. The mountains are a formidable barrier, a natural fortress that has for millennia separated the East from the West. Crossing them is not merely a physical challenge, but a mental one, a test of your endurance and your spirit as you push through these high mountain passes. You come across unique geological formations, some described in Marco Polo's accounts as the mountains of salt, or regions where the earth itself seemed to smoke or produce strange phenomena. While some of these might have been exaggerated or misinterpreted natural occurrences, they speak to the awe and wonder, and perhaps fear, that these unfamiliar landscapes inspired. Imagine encountering a burning gas vent for the first time, not knowing the science behind it, and attributing it to some mystical or even demonic force. It adds to the surreal, almost dreamlike quality of your journey through truly uncharted territory for most Europeans. The concept of time itself begins to blur. Days are defined by the sun's arc across the sky, nights by the moon and stars. The rigid schedules of Venetian life are a distant memory, replaced by the organic rhythm of travel. You become more attuned to the subtle shifts in the weather, the cries of distant animals, the nuances of the landscape. Your senses sharpen, and you learn to read the signs of the land, to anticipate challenges, and to find beauty in the most unexpected places. It's a profound transformation, a shedding of your old self and the forging of a new one. Shaped by the raw power of the Asian wilderness, the people you meet in these mountain regions are often hardy, self-sufficient, and wary of outsiders. They live lives dictated by the harsh environment, their existence a constant struggle for survival. You observe their unique customs, their traditional clothing, and their methods of hunting and herding. While communication is often difficult, a shared humanity transcends language barriers, a recognition of mutual struggle and the universal need for sustenance and shelter. You might even share a laugh over a simple gesture or a misunderstanding, breaking the tension of the long journey. You are no longer just a merchant's son. You are a seasoned traveler, a survivor, a witness to a world far grander and more complex than any map could depict. Each day brings new challenges, new sights, and new lessons. You are slowly but surely making your way towards the legendary lands of Cathay, to the court of the Great Khan, a destination that remains a distant beacon guiding your arduous journey through the heart of Asia. The awful in these adventures isn't just about hardship. It's about the awe, the wonder, the sheer scale of the experiences that are fundamentally reshaping you. The relentless march eastward continues, and you are now truly immersed in the vast, untamed heart of Central Asia. The mountains gradually recede, giving way to the seemingly endless expanse of the Pamir Mountains, often called the roof of the world. This region is breathtakingly beautiful, yet brutally inhospitable. Here, the air is thin and crisp, carrying the scent of juniper and glacial meltwater. Towering peaks, perpetually capped with snow, scrape against a sky that seems impossibly blue. You are literally moving across some of the highest terrain on Earth that was regularly traversed by merchants. It's an experience that dwarfs any previous notion of scale you might have held. The paths through the Pamirs are not roads in any conventional sense. They are treacherous goat tracks, winding precariously along sheer cliff faces, often barely wide enough for a single laden camel. You learn to trust your animal implicitly. Its steady gait and careful footing, a lifeline in this dizzying landscape. The cold is piercing, even in what passes for summer, and at night. The temperatures plummet, forcing you to huddle for warmth around meager fires. Their smoke quickly whipped away by the biting wind. Every breath is an effort, every step a deliberate act of will. You might even find yourself lightheaded from the altitude. A strange, disorienting sensation that adds another layer to the general discomfort. One particularly vivid memory might be crossing the Wakhan Corridor, a narrow strip of land that now forms part of Afghanistan, squeezed between towering mountain ranges. This was a crucial, albeit incredibly difficult, artery of the Silk Road. Here, the sheer isolation is palpable. You might go for days without seeing another human soul. The silence broken only by the whistling wind and the crunch of your boots on the rocky ground. It's a profound experience of solitude, forcing introspection and a deep reliance on your inner fortitude. The landscape itself seems to dwarf humanity, a stark reminder of your smallness in the face of such grandeur. As you navigate these elevated regions, you encounter entirely different communities. These are hardy, resilient people, often semi-nomadic, whose lives are dictated by the rhythms of the mountains. They are shepherds and traders, their faces weathered by the elements, their eyes keen and watchful. You observe their unique dwellings, sometimes carved into the rock face, or simple felt tents called yurts, surprisingly warm and protective against the fierce mountain winds. While communication remains a challenge, a shared glance, a gesture of hospitality, or the universal language of trade often suffices to bridge the cultural divide. There's a quiet dignity to these people, born of their constant struggle against an unforgiving environment. A truly awful experience in these high altitudes might involve the effects of altitude sickness, which Marco Polo himself is believed to have experienced and described. You might feel a crushing headache, nausea, extreme fatigue, and a shortness of breath that makes even simple tasks monumental efforts. It's a constant battle against your own body, which struggles to adapt to the lack of oxygen. The very air seems to conspire against you, making every ascent a testament to sheer willpower. You might find yourself lightheaded, dizzy, and prone to sudden, inexplicable fits of exhaustion. Just when you thought the desert was bad, you might wheeze to your uncle, a wry grimace on your face. The air itself tries to choke you. This isn't just discomfort. It's a profound physical challenge that tests your limits in a way you'd never imagine possible. One common historical fact that becomes abundantly clear in these regions is the vital role of camels, particularly the Bactrian camel with its two humps. These animals are true beasts of burden, incredibly adapted to the harsh conditions of the Silk Road. They can carry immense loads, endure extreme temperatures, and survive for long periods without water. You spend countless hours in their company, learning their quirks, their surprisingly gentle nature, and their uncanny ability to navigate treacherous terrain. Their rhythmic chewing and soft grunts become part of the background soundtrack of your journey, a comforting constant in an ever-changing world. Without them, such expeditions would have been utterly impossible. The academic debate still continues on the precise route Marco Polo took through the Pamir Mountains and into the Tarim Basin. Was it via the Wakjir Pass or another, less documented route? The sparse historical records and the challenging terrain make definitive answers elusive, allowing for ongoing scholarly discussion and interpretation. What is undeniable, however, is the sheer scale of the geographical barrier you are surmounting. A testament to the Polos' determination and the vital importance of the trade they were pursuing. Leaving the Pamirs, you begin your descent into the Tarim Basin, a vast arid depression in what is now Xinjiang, China. This region is dominated by the Taklamakan Desert, one of the most fearsome and inhospitable deserts in the world. Its name, in local Turkic dialects, is often translated as "go in and you won't come out," a chilling warning that resonates deeply with every traveler who attempts to cross it. The Pamirs tested your endurance against altitude and cold. The Taklamakan tests it against thirst, heat, and the constant threat of getting lost in its shifting sands. The desert landscape is utterly overwhelming in its scale and desolation. Endless dunes stretch to the horizon, their forms sculpted by the relentless wind, constantly shifting and reforming. There are no landmarks, no familiar features to guide you. Navigation becomes an art and a science, relying on the stars at night, the sun's position by day, and the accumulated knowledge of generations of desert guides. The silence here is profound, an almost oppressive quiet broken only by the soft pad of camel hooves and the whisper of the wind across the sand. It's a silence that can play tricks on your mind, conjuring illusions of water or distant oases. You might find yourself craving the bustling noise of Venice, just for a moment, for the sheer comfort of its chaos. The oases along the edges of the Taklamakan are lifelines, verdant islands of civilization in a sea of sand. Cities like Kashgar, Yarkand, and Khotan emerge from the desert like mirages, offering water, food, and shelter. These are vibrant trading hubs, where goods from the west meet goods from the east. The air in these cities is thick with the aroma of exotic spices, the chatter of 100 languages, and the cries of merchants hawking their wares. You see silks from China, precious stones from India, furs from Siberia, and ironware from Persia, all converging in these bustling markets. This is where the true wealth of the Silk Road is exchanged, where fortunes are made and lost with every caravan. Life in these oasis cities is a stark contrast to the grueling journey. You might find relative comfort, warm meals, and the opportunity to rest and replenish your supplies. Your father and uncle engage in intense negotiations, trading the goods they brought from Europe for the highly prized commodities of the East. You observe their shrewdness, their patience, and their ability to forge relationships with local merchants, often over cups of fragrant tea. This is where your education in commerce truly takes hold, as you learn the value of different currencies, the complexities of exchange rates, and the art of striking a profitable deal. However, even in these oases, danger can lurk. Local politics are often volatile, and banditry remains a constant concern outside the city walls. You also learn about the harsh justice often meted out in these distant lands, where local rulers enforce order with an iron fist. The security of the city provides a temporary reprieve, but the awareness of the dangers beyond its walls never truly leaves you. It's a delicate balance between opportunity and risk, a tightrope walk that defines the lives of all who traverse the Silk Road. The people of the Tarim Basin are largely Turkic and Uyghur, their culture distinct from those you've encountered further west. They are skilled farmers, cultivating their fields with irrigation channels fed by snowmelt from the distant mountains. Their hospitality can be generous, and you learn to appreciate their simple, yet profound, way of life. You might even pick up a few phrases of the local dialect, enough to exchange pleasantries or negotiate for basic necessities. A small but significant step in bridging the vast cultural chasm, one truly unique and somewhat unsettling. Aspect of the Taklamakan Desert that Marco Polo himself mentions are the singing sands or sounding sands. These are dunes that, under certain conditions of wind and humidity, produce a strange, resonant hum or groan, sometimes described as a musical note or even a booming sound. For travelers unfamiliar with the phenomenon, it could be genuinely terrifying, attributed to spirits, demons, or the voices of the dead. Imagine being in the dead of night, surrounded by nothing but sand, and hearing a low, ethereal moan emanating from the dunes around you. It's the kind of experience that could drive a less rational person to madness, a subtle psychological torture inflicted by the very landscape. Just when you think you've seen it all, you might mumble to yourself, pulling your cloak tighter. The desert decides to serenade your impending doom. It's one of those moments that truly blurs the line between reality and the supernatural in the minds of the weary traveler. As you near the eastern edge of the Taklamakan, the anticipation builds. You are approaching the gates of China, the legendary Cathay, the land that your father and uncle have spoken of with such awe and reverence. The very air seems to hum with the promise of this ultimate destination. The journey has been arduous, filled with discomfort, danger, and moments of sheer terror. But it has also been a journey of profound discovery, transforming you from a young Venetian merchant's son into a seasoned traveler. A man who has witnessed wonders and endured hardships that few Europeans could ever comprehend. You are almost there, at the threshold of the most powerful and sophisticated empire on Earth, ready for the next, even more astonishing chapter of your awful adventures. You have traversed the roof of the world and survived the dreaded desert of death. Now, as you emerge from the eastern fringes of the Taklamakan Desert, the landscape slowly begins to transform. The desolate, shifting sands give way to more settled regions. Irrigated lands fed by rivers swollen with mountain meltwater. The air, though still dry, carries a different scent, the promise of civilization, of densely populated areas, and of the grand destination that has driven your incredible journey, Cathay. The realm of the Great Khan. You feel a surge of anticipation mixed with a profound sense of exhaustion. The end of this seemingly endless road is finally in sight, as you draw closer to the heart of Kublai Khan's empire. The nature of the settlements changes dramatically. The simple oasis towns give way to larger, more organized cities, their walls stout, their gates imposing. These are not merely trading posts, they are centers of administration, culture, and vast populations. You begin to see clear signs of a highly sophisticated, centralized authority. Roads, though still dusty and rough, are more frequently traveled, carrying a constant stream of merchants, imperial envoys, and common folk. This is a level of societal organization far beyond anything you've witnessed since leaving Europe. One particularly striking sight might be the sheer scale of the agricultural lands. Vast fields stretch as far as the eye can see, meticulously cultivated, producing an abundance of grains, rice, and other crops. This impressive agricultural base speaks to the sheer population density and the organizational prowess of the empire. You witness intricate irrigation systems, canals, and water wheels, demonstrating a level of engineering expertise that would be astounding to a European of your time. This efficient food production system allowed for the sustenance of vast armies and enormous cities. Something truly awe-inspiring. This comprehensive agricultural system is a well-documented historical fact about the Mongol Empire's administration in China, showcasing their ability to leverage existing infrastructure and knowledge. Your caravan finally approaches the outskirts of a truly massive city. Perhaps Chengdu Xanadu, Kublai Khan's summer palace, or another major imperial center. The sheer scale of the urban sprawl is overwhelming. Unlike the cramped, winding streets of Venice, these cities are often laid out on a grid system, with broad avenues and impressive public buildings. The city walls themselves are monumental, far grander than anything you've ever seen. Constructed from brick and rammed earth, towering over the surrounding landscape. The gates are heavily guarded, and the flow of people and goods through them is constant. A human river teeming with life as you enter the city. The sensory experience is profound. The air vibrates with the sounds of a million voices. The clatter of carts, the cries of street vendors, and the distant clang of blacksmiths. The smells are a rich tapestry of exotic spices, cooking food, incense, and the ubiquitous scent of humanity. The streets are teeming with people of every conceivable background: Chinese, Mongols, Turkic peoples, Persians, Arabs, and even a few other Europeans who, like you, have braved the long journey. You see a bewildering array of clothing styles, from the silken robes of the imperial court to the practical attire of the peasants. It's a kaleidoscope of humanity, a testament to the vastness and diversity of the Mongol Empire. You observe the remarkable efficiency of the imperial administration. There are well-maintained postal relay stations, known as YAM, which facilitate rapid communication across the empire. These stations provide fresh horses and lodging for imperial messengers, allowing news and orders to travel at incredible speeds. You might even use these stations yourselves. Marveling at the seamless organization, the infrastructure alone is a testament to the sophisticated governance of the Mongol Empire, demonstrating a logistical capability that far outstrips anything in Europe at the time. One of the less glamorous, and perhaps truly awful, aspects you might encounter is the sheer bureaucracy of the Mongol court. While efficient, it could also be slow and rigid. Obtaining permits, presenting your credentials, and navigating the various levels of officialdom could be a tedious and frustrating process. Imagine trying to explain your purpose to countless officials who speak different languages and operate under a completely alien system of governance. Your patience would be tested, your diplomatic skills honed through sheer necessity. It's a moment where you might long for the comparatively simple, if chaotic, dealings of the Venetian marketplace. Just fill out Form B27 subsection C in triplicate, then come back tomorrow. Maybe. You might imagine an exasperated official telling you, your hopes of a quick audience dashed. The academic debate continues among historians regarding the exact details of the Mongol Empire's administrative structure and the degree to which it was influenced by Chinese bureaucratic traditions versus nomadic Mongol practices. While Marco Polo provides valuable first-hand accounts, pinpointing the precise blend of these influences remains a complex area of study, with scholars often drawing on a variety of sources to piece together a comprehensive picture. Your father and uncle, having previously visited the court, guide you through the intricate protocols. They advise you on the proper etiquette, the gestures of deference, and the nuances of presenting yourselves to the Khan's officials. This is not a place for casual banter or directness. It is a realm of formality and power, where every interaction is carefully observed. You learn to speak humbly, to present your gifts respectfully, and to wait patiently for an audience. Then comes the moment you've been traveling for years to reach your audience with the great Khan. Kublai. You are led through vast, ornate courtyards and into halls of breathtaking grandeur. The scale of the palace is immense, adorned with intricate carvings, vibrant murals, and shimmering silks. The air is thick with the scent of exotic perfumes and the hushed murmurs of courtiers. Guards in elaborate uniforms stand silent and imposing, their presence a constant reminder of the Khan's absolute power. Kublai Khan himself is a figure of immense majesty and power. He sits on a raised throne, perhaps adorned with gold and precious jewels, surrounded by his retinue of advisors, generals, and nobles. He is likely an older man, his face perhaps etched with the burdens of ruling the largest contiguous empire in history. But his eyes are sharp and intelligent, missing nothing. He radiates authority, a man accustomed to having his every word obeyed by millions. As you approach, you follow your father and uncle's lead, performing the required bows and gestures of respect. Your father presents the letters from the Pope, along with the gifts you've carried so carefully across continents. The Khan listens intently, his expression unreadable. Your father speaks of the Christian faith, of the desire for goodwill and perhaps even an alliance against common enemies. You, Marco, stand by, observing every detail, every nuance of this momentous encounter. It's a moment of immense tension and significance, the culmination of years of arduous travel. Unlike other visitors, who merely present their tributes and leave, your family, particularly your father and uncle, have a unique advantage. They have been here before, and they possess knowledge and skills that are highly valued by the Khan. They speak several languages, have a deep understanding of trade, and crucially, they have tales of the Western world that fascinate the curious Khan. This is not just a diplomatic visit, it is an opportunity for employment, for integration into the very heart of the Mongol Empire. The Khan, intrigued by your family's stories and their evident worldliness, expresses a desire for you to remain at his court. He sees the potential in your knowledge, your ability to observe, and your capacity to serve as imperial envoys. This is where your true adventure, beyond mere travel, truly begins. You are no longer just a merchant, you are now a guest, and eventually, a servant of the great Khan, entrusted with important missions that will take you across the length and breadth of his vast dominion. It's an opportunity that most Europeans could only dream of, a chance to witness firsthand the inner workings of an empire that stretches from the Pacific Ocean to the borders of Eastern Europe. You are formally integrated into the Khan's retinue, provided with lodging, servants, and the resources necessary to carry out your duties. This is a stark contrast to the rough and tumble existence of the Silk Road. You are now part of the imperial machine, a cog in the vast administration of the world's largest empire. You begin to learn the intricacies of court life, the hierarchies, the unspoken rules, and the constant dance of power and influence. It's a new world, as challenging in its own way as the deserts and mountains you've just crossed. Your awful adventures are just beginning to take on a new, even more extraordinary dimension. Now, settled into the opulent yet demanding court of Kublai Khan, your life takes on an entirely new rhythm. Gone are the days of endless trekking across desolate landscapes. Instead, your existence is now defined by the intricate protocols of imperial service and the bewildering scale of the Mongol Empire. You, Marco, become an eyewitness to a level of power, wealth, and administrative genius that utterly dwarfs anything in Europe. This isn't just a change of scenery, it's a profound shift in perspective, forcing you to recalibrate every understanding you have of the world. Your initial duties likely involve being an observer and an aide to your father and uncle, who are already trusted by the Khan. Kublai, a man of immense curiosity and shrewd intellect, recognized the unique value of the Polos. Unlike most of his Mongol or Chinese courtiers, you bring an outside perspective, a knowledge of the distant West, and a knack for languages. You are not merely a decorative curiosity, you are a tool, a valuable asset in the Khan's grand scheme of governance. The great Khan, as you quickly learn, is not just a conqueror, he is a meticulous administrator, a patron of the arts and sciences, and a man deeply interested in understanding the vast and diverse peoples under his rule. He seeks information, not just about trade, but about customs, resources, and potential allies or adversaries from every corner of his vast dominion. This insatiable curiosity is what makes you so valuable. You, the young Venetian, are tasked with observing, listening, and reporting back. Your role evolves into that of an imperial envoy, sent on various missions across the empire. These aren't cushy diplomatic assignments. They are often long, arduous journeys into distant provinces, requiring keen observation and diplomatic skill. You might be sent to assess the conditions of a newly conquered territory, to resolve local disputes, or to gather information on regional resources. Each mission is a mini expedition in itself, taking you far from the gilded cages of the imperial palaces. Imagine being dispatched to the remote southern provinces, perhaps to what is now Yunnan, a region teeming with diverse ethnic groups and lush, tropical landscapes. The journey there would be another epic trek, though perhaps less physically brutal than the Pamirs or the Taklamakan. It would present its own unique challenges. You'd navigate dense forest, swollen rivers, and encounter peoples with customs even more alien than those of the Silk Road. You might witness unique farming practices, observe local religious ceremonies, and note the distinct architectural styles of the region. One particularly striking, and frankly awful, aspect you would encounter during these imperial assignments is the immense diversity of climates and topographies within the Mongol Empire. One week you might be shivering in the high mountain passes of Sichuan, the next sweltering in the humid rice paddies of the south. This constant environmental flux would be taxing, demanding a constant readjustment of your body and your expectations. You'd go from worrying about frostbite to swatting relentless mosquitoes. A truly disorienting experience. Just when you've finally sweated out all that Pamir chill, you might grumble to yourself, wiping your brow. Now you're drowning in humidity. Is there no middle ground in this empire? This rapid shift in environment is a well-documented aspect of travel across China. Even today, as an envoy, you are expected to provide detailed reports to the Khan. This requires not just travel, but keen observation. You learn to note the local agricultural products, the manufacturing processes, the prevailing trade goods, and the local customs. You also pay attention to military strength, the loyalty of local populations, and any potential sources of unrest. This isn't just travelogue writing, it's intelligence gathering for the most powerful ruler on Earth. Your ability to recall details, to organize information, and to present it clearly would have been invaluable to Kublai Khan. One fascinating historical detail that Marco Polo describes is the use of paper money throughout the Mongol Empire. You, coming from a Europe where coinage was king, would be utterly astonished by this system. Imagine a form of currency made from mulberry bark, stamped with the Khan's seal, accepted as legal tender throughout the vast empire. The Khan controls its production and issues it in enormous quantities, demonstrating an advanced understanding of economics and centralized control of finance. This system, while incredibly efficient for trade within the empire, would be mind-boggling to a European accustomed to tangible gold and silver. It highlights the advanced nature of the Chinese economy compared to medieval Europe. The academic debate surrounding Marco Polo's accounts often grapples with the extent to which his descriptions of Chinese customs and technologies, like paper money, were genuinely observed or perhaps embellished or misunderstood. While the existence of paper money is historically verifiable, the exact nuance of his understanding and reporting of it remains a point of scholarly discussion. With some arguing he focused on aspects that would most impress a European audience. Your travels take you through regions that are technologically far more advanced than Europe. You observe sophisticated iron production, the use of coal as fuel a novelty in Europe at the time, and the intricate workings of canal systems that facilitate trade and communication across vast distances. You see the widespread use of porcelain, an art form that is barely understood in the West. You witness the efficiency of Chinese calligraphy and the precision of their astronomical observations. It's a constant barrage of innovation and refinement, forcing you to reconsider your own society's technological standing. You also gain an intimate understanding of the Khan's diverse subjects. You meet the Han Chinese, the historical heart of the empire, whose culture is ancient and deeply ingrained. You interact with the Mongols themselves, the ruling elite, observing their military prowess, their nomadic traditions, and their surprisingly adaptable governance. You also encounter the various Turkic, Tibetan, and other ethnic groups who populate the empire, each with their own unique identity, yet all ultimately subject to the Khan's will. This exposure to such a vast human tapestry would broaden your worldview immensely, making you far more cosmopolitan than any Venetian merchant could ever hope to be. The Khan himself remains a figure of immense power and unpredictable moods, while generally benevolent towards you and your family. You would undoubtedly witness moments of his fierce wrath or his ruthless efficiency in dealing with rebellions or disloyalty. His court is a place of grand feasts and elaborate ceremonies, but also a place where political intrigue and subtle power struggles are constantly at play. You learn to navigate this complex social landscape, to choose your words carefully, and to understand the unspoken rules of the court. Life at court, despite its luxuries, is never truly free of tension or the awareness of the Khan's absolute authority. You might find yourself appreciating the quiet moments of reflection, perhaps when walking through the imperial gardens or observing the intricate artwork of the palace. These moments offer a reprieve from the constant demands of your duties and the overwhelming scale of your surroundings. You are living a life of extraordinary privilege, given unparalleled access to the inner workings of an empire that few Europeans even knew existed. Yet, you are also fundamentally an outsider, always observing, always learning, always reporting. Your service to Kublai Khan stretches for many years, far longer than any of you initially anticipated. These years are not just about travel, they are about deep immersion. You learn to speak not only Persian, a lingua franca of the Silk Road, but also Mongolian and some Chinese, allowing you to communicate directly with the Khan and his subjects. This linguistic ability makes you even more invaluable, allowing you to gather information firsthand and to conduct your missions with greater independence. You truly become a trusted, if foreign, servant of the Mongol imperial machine. As your time in the Khan's service stretches on, you would undoubtedly come to appreciate the immense logistical challenges of governing such a vast empire. The Khan relies on a sophisticated system of taxation, census-taking, and resource allocation. You might even assist in some of these administrative tasks, gaining a practical understanding of how millions of people are governed and sustained. This level of organization is yet another stark contrast to the more fragmented and feudal systems prevalent in medieval Europe. The awful adventures continue. Not with physical hardship this time, but with the intellectual and cultural shock of being so deeply embedded in a society fundamentally different from your own. You are constantly challenged, constantly learning, and perpetually astonished by the scale and sophistication of the world you now inhabit. The court of Kublai Khan is a golden cage, offering unparalleled experiences, but also demanding unwavering loyalty and service, shaping you into a true man of two worlds. Your years in Kublai Khan's court stretch into a significant portion of your life, transforming you from a wide-eyed Venetian youth into a seasoned imperial official. You're no longer just observing, you're actively participating in the machinery of the vast Mongol Empire. This deep immersion provides you with unique insights into the administrative genius and, at times, the brutal efficiency of Mongol rule. It's a complex tapestry of cultures and systems, stitched together by the formidable will of the great Khan. One of the most remarkable aspects you witness is the Mongols' ability to govern such an incredibly diverse and sprawling territory. Unlike many European empires that struggled with fragmented allegiances and local lords, the Mongols established a highly centralized system. You see firsthand their reliance on decimal organization for both their military and their administration, a system that provided clear lines of command and accountability. This numerical precision extended to their census-taking, their tax collection, and even the organization of their imperial hunting parties. It's a level of statistical and logistical management that would be utterly foreign to any European monarch of your time. This method of organization is a key historical fact about Mongol military and administrative structure, allowing them to control vast populations. You also observe the Khan's shrewdness in utilizing the talents of his diverse subjects. He employs Chinese scholars for administration, Persian engineers for building projects, Arab physicians for medicine, and Europeans like yourself for intelligence gathering and diplomacy. He is a pragmatic ruler, less concerned with ethnic origin than with competence and loyalty. This meritocratic approach, while not absolute, stands in stark contrast to the often rigid social hierarchies of feudal Europe. You might even find yourself in discussions with scholars from various backgrounds, debating philosophies or comparing different scientific observations. A truly mind-expanding experience. However, the awful side of Mongol rule is never far from the surface. While the empire brings order and prosperity to many regions, it was founded on conquest and overwhelming military might. You would hear stories, or even witness the remnants, of the brutal efficiency with which rebellions were crushed or cities that resisted were utterly destroyed. The memory of their conquests, and the lingering threat of their military prowess, served as a powerful deterrent against widespread dissent. The stability you now enjoy at court is built upon a foundation of ruthless power, a stark reminder that benevolent rule often goes hand in hand with the capacity for immense destruction. You might occasionally catch a glimpse of the fierce, unyielding spirit of the steppe warriors, a chilling reminder of the origins of this grand empire. The academic debate still exists among historians about the true extent of Mongol brutality versus their later reputation for tolerance and administrative skill. Some argue that early accounts heavily emphasize their destructive campaigns, while later periods saw a more nuanced and pragmatic approach to governance. Marco Polo's accounts offer a unique perspective, witnessing both the fearsome power and the sophisticated administration firsthand, making his observations a crucial, albeit debated, source. Your duties often take you beyond the capital, deep into the provinces. You see how the Khan maintains control through a sophisticated postal system, Yam, which you've already encountered. This network of relay stations ensures that messages, troops, and goods can travel at astonishing speeds across the empire. It's a truly impressive logistical feat, allowing the Khan to exert real-time authority over his distant territories. You might find yourself marveling at the fresh horses ready at every station, or the comfortable lodging awaiting weary travelers. It's almost like a medieval version of express delivery. But for entire armies and vital intelligence, you witness the vibrant economic life facilitated by this stability. The Silk Road, now largely controlled and protected by the Mongols, flourishes as never before. Goods flow freely from east to west and north to south, enriching the empire and its inhabitants. You observe sophisticated markets, where every conceivable commodity is traded, from precious jewels and exotic spices to furs and everyday necessities. The sheer volume of commerce is staggering, a testament to the peace and order enforced by the Mongol yoke. One particularly eye-opening experience might be visiting a coal mining operation or observing the widespread use of coal for heating and industry. In Europe, wood and charcoal are the primary fuels. Here, you see entire cities powered by this black, abundant rock. The scale of the mines, the methods of extraction, and the ubiquitous smoke rising from countless chimneys would be a striking visual and olfactory experience. It's a glimpse into an energy source and an industrial capacity far beyond anything in the West. Further highlighting the technological gap, just another day breathing in lampblack. You might sigh, wiping a streak of soot from your face. Europeans have no idea what they're missing, or maybe they do. You also learn about the Mongol attitude towards religious tolerance, while they themselves often adhere to their traditional shamanistic beliefs. Kublai Khan was remarkably open to other faiths. You see Buddhist monasteries coexisting with Taoist temples, Christian churches, and Muslim mosques. The Khan often invited religious leaders from various traditions to his court. Engaging in philosophical debates and seeking spiritual guidance, this religious pluralism stands in stark contrast to the often rigid and conflict-ridden religious landscape of medieval Europe. It's a refreshing, albeit sometimes confusing, environment where different beliefs are allowed to flourish side by side. As long as they don't challenge the Khan's authority, as your knowledge of the empire deepens, you become more than just an envoy. You are a trusted advisor, a cultural bridge between East and West. You are consulted on matters relating to European customs, technologies, and political dynamics. Your presence at court becomes less of a novelty and more of a valuable asset. You might find yourself translating, interpreting, or simply offering a unique perspective that only someone from your background could provide. The awful aspect of this is the immense responsibility that comes with it. The pressure to always be accurate, always be diplomatic, always be useful to a ruler who holds absolute power over your life. Your daily life at court, while luxurious compared to your travels, is also structured and disciplined. You participate in the elaborate court ceremonies, witness the grand hunts and military parades, and attend the banquets that are feasts for both the stomach and the eyes. These events are not just entertainment. They are carefully choreographed displays of the Khan's power and wealth, designed to impress both his subjects and foreign dignitaries. You learn the intricate etiquette, the proper greetings, and the subtle gestures of respect that govern every interaction. It's a constant performance, a carefully orchestrated dance of power. Amidst the grandeur, you also gain insight into the Khan's personal qualities. He is a pragmatic leader, often making decisions based on rational assessment rather than purely on tradition or emotion. He is curious, always seeking new knowledge and innovations. Yet, he is also a formidable figure, capable of swift and decisive action when provoked. You witness his moments of generosity and his flashes of temper, understanding that beneath the imperial splendor lies a complex and powerful individual. Your years serving the Great Khan are a unique apprenticeship in governance, geopolitics, and human nature. You see the vastness of the world through the eyes of its most powerful ruler. You learn about the strengths and weaknesses of different cultures, the art of command, and the complexities of managing a multi-ethnic empire. These experiences shape you profoundly, giving you a perspective on power and organization that no other European of your time could ever hope to attain. You are truly embedded, a part of this colossal system, an invaluable, albeit foreign, component in the grand design of the Mongol Empire, after what feels like an eternity, but in reality is 17 long years serving the Great Khan. A familiar longing begins to stir within you and your family, the yearning for home. Despite the unparalleled luxury and prestige of your position in Kublai Khan's court, the call of Venice, of familiar faces, and the prospect of returning to your own world becomes increasingly compelling. You have seen wonders beyond imagination, witnessed power on a scale previously inconceivable, but now, the desire to share these tales, and to live out your remaining years in your homeland, starts to overshadow even the gilded cage of the imperial palace. However, leaving Kublai Khan's court is no simple matter. The Khan, having grown accustomed to your unique skills and insights, is reluctant to let you go. You are too valuable, too useful. He values your counsel, your ability to understand the West, and perhaps most importantly, your stories. It takes considerable diplomacy, patience, and perhaps even a touch of desperation from your father and uncle to finally convince the Khan to grant your departure. He only agrees when a specific, critical mission arises that requires your particular expertise, escorting a Mongol princess, Kukulkan, to Persia, where she is to marry Arghun Khan, the Il Khan of Persia. This provides the perfect pretext for your exit, a mission too important for the Khan to refuse. This particular historical detail, the escorting of the princess, is one of the most compelling and debated aspects of Marco Polo's narrative, often cited as a key piece of evidence for his veracity. So, the grand return journey begins. It's a journey fraught with different perils than your overland trek. This time, the primary mode of travel is by sea. Imagine embarking on a massive fleet of ships, far grander and more numerous than any vessels you've ever seen in the Mediterranean. These are sophisticated Chinese junks, some with multiple masts and rudders, capable of traversing vast oceans. The sheer size of the fleet, carrying thousands of people, including the princess, her retinue, soldiers, and vast amounts of cargo, would be a breathtaking sight, dwarfing any European armada. You sail from the bustling ports of southern China, perhaps from Guangzhou, which Polo called Zhejiang, a hub of international maritime trade. The initial leg of the voyage takes you through the dangerous waters of the South China Sea. You encounter fierce typhoons, massive storms that whip the ocean into a frenzy, threatening to splinter your sturdy vessels. The waves are mountainous. The winds howl like enraged beasts, and the ship groans under the strain. You endure days, perhaps weeks, of violent pitching and rolling, constantly fearing for your life. Sickness spreads through the overcrowded ships, and the constant dampness and lack of fresh provisions wear down even the strongest among you. This is a far cry from the predictable, relatively calm Mediterranean. You might find yourself longing for the solid ground of the desert, as awful as it was, over the relentless, unpredictable fury of the open ocean. Just when you thought the desert's singing sands were bad, you might cough, clinging to a mast during a storm. The ocean decides to belt out its own death metal symphony. One common historical fact that becomes abundantly clear during this maritime journey is the incredible advancements in Chinese shipbuilding and navigation. Their ships utilize watertight compartments, a feature not adopted in Europe for centuries, making them remarkably resilient. They also employ sophisticated navigational tools like the magnetic compass and detailed star charts, far more advanced than anything available in the West. You witness these innovations firsthand, marveling at the ingenuity that allows such massive voyages to be undertaken. The academic debate still exists around the exact number of ships and people in the Mongol fleet that escorted Princess Kokochin. While Marco Polo's account speaks of a very large fleet and thousands of individuals, some historians debate whether the numbers might have been slightly exaggerated for dramatic effect, or whether specific details were misremembered over the years before his book was compiled. However, the general scale of the undertaking is widely accepted. Your journey takes you through the archipelagos of Southeast Asia, past the spice-laden islands of the Malay archipelago, modern-day Indonesia and Malaysia. You might make stops at various ports, encountering new cultures, new languages, and new dangers. The air here is thick with humidity and the intoxicating scent of cloves, nutmeg, and cinnamon. You see vibrant markets selling exotic birds, fragrant woods, and strange fruits you've never imagined. However, these tropical paradises also harbor dangerous, treacherous currents, hidden reefs, and the threat of piracy. One particularly awful aspect of this long sea voyage would be the constant threat of disease. Scurvy, dysentery, and other illnesses would inevitably break out in the cramped, unsanitary conditions of the ships. You'd witness your fellow travelers and even members of your own party succumbing to these ailments. The lack of fresh food and clean water, combined with the extreme heat and humidity, would create a breeding ground for sickness, turning the journey into a grim test of survival against invisible enemies. The constant smell of illness, mingled with the sea air, would be a pervasive and deeply unpleasant part of your daily existence. As you sail westward across the Indian Ocean, you encounter the vastness of the sea, often going for weeks without seeing land. The monotony of the open ocean is broken only by the occasional sighting of whales or the mesmerizing phosphorescence of the waves at night. The sheer scale of the journey is humbling, a testament to the endurance of those who brave these waters. You would spend countless hours scanning the horizon, hoping for the first glimpse of land, a craving for solid ground after so long at sea. Your fleet eventually makes landfall in Persia, likely at a port like Hormuz. On the Arabian Sea, the journey, which by Polo's account took over 2 years, has been incredibly arduous, and the number of people who started the voyage is significantly reduced by illness and attrition. The emotional impact of this devastating loss of life would be profound, a heavy burden to carry even as you finally reach your destination. Upon your arrival in Persia, you fulfill your mission. You deliver Princess Kokoshin to the court of the Ilkhan. However, you find that Arghun Khan, her intended groom, has passed away during your prolonged voyage. Instead, she is betrothed to his son, Ghazan. This unexpected turn of events highlights the fluid and often tragic nature of power and succession in these distant lands. It's a moment of mixed emotions, relief at having completed your vital mission, but sadness for the princess and the political complexities she now faces, with your mission concluded, and having paid your respects and secured the necessary permissions. You and your family are finally free to resume your journey home. From Persia, the exact route you take back to Venice is less clear, but it would likely involve another overland trek, perhaps through Turkey and then by sea across the Mediterranean, or a more direct overland route through regions you had traversed years ago. This final leg, though still challenging, must feel like a race towards the familiar. Every step, every mile, brings you closer to the canals of Venice, to the life you left behind after years of incredible adventures, both awful and awe-inspiring. You finally set foot once more on the familiar cobblestones of Venice. The city you left as a youth is now the city you return to as a seasoned man of the world, carrying tales and experiences that no other European can rival. Your epic journey, spanning decades and continents, has come to a close. But the story, the true legacy of your adventures, is just about to begin. You stand on the familiar stones of Venice, the clang of church bells replacing the distant echoes of Mongol trumpets, the scent of the lagoon mingling with memories of exotic spices. But your return is not the triumphant, universally celebrated homecoming you might have imagined. After 17 years, you, Marco Polo, along with your father and uncle, are almost unrecognizable. Your Venetian dialect is perhaps a little rusty, colored by the myriad languages you've learned. Your clothes, though likely tailored from the finest Eastern silks, are alien to the fashions of Venice. You are, in essence, strangers in your own land. The initial reception is a mix of awe and skepticism. Many believed you were long dead, lost to the vast and dangerous East. Your own relatives, inheriting the Polo family fortune in your presumed absence, are reportedly reluctant to acknowledge you. Imagine the awkward family dinners, the thinly veiled suspicion in their eyes as you recount tales that sound more like fantastical fables than lived experiences. It's a bitter pill to swallow after enduring decades of hardship and witnessing unparalleled wonders. You might find yourself in moments of quiet frustration, wishing for the clear-cut hierarchies of Kublai Khan's court, where your word held weight, unlike here, where you're treated with polite but firm disbelief. They think we're mad, Nicolo, you might grumble to your father. Or worse, beggars in silk. This initial skepticism stems from the sheer incredulity of your stories. You speak of cities of millions, of paper money, of vast empires and technological marvels that simply do not exist in the European worldview. How could a man from humble Venice have witnessed such things? It's a testament to the immense knowledge gap between East and West at the time. To most Venetians, your tales of Cathay and the Great Khan would sound like something out of a medieval romance. Not a factual account of real places and real people. One particular historical fact about your family's situation upon returning is that they had to prove their identity and claim their rightful inheritance. This wasn't merely a casual family reunion. It was a legal and financial hurdle. They apparently did this by publicly displaying the vast wealth they had brought back from the East, revealing chests overflowing with rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and other precious gems, sewn into the very seams of their worn, travel-stained garments. This dramatic unveiling was designed to silence the skeptics and prove, in the most tangible way possible, the truth of their incredible journey and its immense profitability. It was a rather dramatic, albeit necessary, performance. The academic debate still continues about the precise details of this famous gem revelation story, while widely recounted. Some historians consider it more of a dramatic flourish added later to the narrative to emphasize the Polo's incredible wealth and to counter the skepticism they faced. Regardless of the exact theatricality, the core message remains they returned wealthy beyond imagination. Your return is also complicated by the ongoing conflict between Venice and Genoa, rival maritime republics constantly vying for control of lucrative trade routes. The Mediterranean is a dangerous place, teeming with privateers and warships. It's a bitter irony that after surviving the dangers of the vast Asian interior and the perilous Indian Ocean, you find yourself facing familiar European hostilities right on your doorstep. In 1296 or 1298, the exact date is debated. You find yourself entangled in this naval conflict. You are likely commanding a Venetian galley, perhaps investing some of your newfound wealth into outfitting it for battle, or simply serving your city as a respected, wealthy citizen during a naval engagement with the Genoese fleet, likely near the coast of Curzola, modern-day Korčula, Croatia. Your ship is captured. You, Marco Polo, the man who dined with Kublai Khan, who crossed deserts and sailed oceans, now find yourself a prisoner of war, taken to a Genoese prison. This is arguably one of the most awful turns in your entire adventure. Not for its physical brutality, which you've endured far worse, but for the profound psychological blow. To have survived so much, only to be imprisoned by your own countrymen's rivals, is a cruel twist of fate. It's a moment of profound anticlimax, a harsh return to the mundane, yet still dangerous. Realities of European politics. You are confined within cold stone walls, far from the vastness of the Asian steppes or the bustling markets of Cathay. However, this imprisonment, seemingly a tragic end to your grand adventures, proves to be an unexpected stroke of destiny. Within the Genoese prison, you encounter a fellow captive, a man named Rustichello da Pisa. Rustichello is a professional romance writer, a literary figure accustomed to crafting tales of chivalry, knights, and fantastical lands. He recognizes the extraordinary nature of your story, not just as a fascinating narrative, but as a potential literary masterpiece. Rustichello, perhaps bored by his own confinement, is captivated by your endless flow of anecdotes, your vivid descriptions of lands and peoples unknown to the European world. He possesses the skills you lack the ability to structure a coherent narrative, to embellish details for a dramatic effect, and to translate your incredible experiences into engaging prose that would appeal to a wide audience. He offers to transcribe your oral accounts, to turn your life's journey into a book. This collaboration is born out of necessity and shared confinement. You, with your unparalleled experiences, provide the raw material, the vivid memories, the geographical details, the cultural observations, the stories of the Khan, Rustichello, with his writer's flair, shapes these fragmented recollections into a cohesive, compelling narrative. He helps you organize your thoughts, prompts you for more details, and probably encourages you to expand on the most captivating aspects of your journey. Imagine the countless hours spent recounting tales, the whispers in the dim light of the prison cell, reliving every desert crossing, every court intrigue, every perilous sea voyage. It's a unique form of therapy, a way to process the decades of accumulated experiences. The process of dictating your stories to Rustichello would have been a grueling exercise in memory and articulation. You'd have to recall names of distant cities, specific customs of forgotten tribes, and the precise measurements of monumental structures. Rustichello, in turn, would grapple with translating your perhaps broken Italian, peppered with Persian and Mongol words, into elegant Old French, the literary language of the time. This collaborative effort, born of shared adversity, is the genesis of what would become one of the most influential books in history, Dévissement du Monde, or Description of the World. More famously known as The Travels of Marco Polo, the awful irony is that this book, which would immortalize your name and your adventures, could only come into existence because you were captured and imprisoned. Had you returned directly to Venice and resumed your life as a merchant, your extraordinary experiences might have remained mere oral anecdotes, whispered among your family and friends, never reaching the wider world. The Genoese prison, therefore, becomes not just a place of confinement, but the literary birthplace of your enduring legacy. From the cramped, cold confines of a Genoese prison cell, a masterpiece begins to take shape. The clinking of chains and the muted sounds of prison life become the unlikely backdrop for the creation of one of history's most influential books. You, Marco Polo, are pouring out 17 years of unparalleled experiences, a cascade of memories about an empire few Europeans even knew existed. And by your side, Rustichello da Pisa, the professional romance writer, diligently transcribes, shapes, and polishes your raw, incredible narrative. This collaborative effort is the true birth of the travels of Marco Polo. The process itself must have been a fascinating and exhaustive one. Imagine you recounting vivid details of Kublai Khan's Golden Palace, the scale of his armies, the use of paper money, or the terrifying singing sands of the Taklamakan. Rustichello, a man accustomed to tales of chivalry and fantastical beasts, would likely have to constantly prod you for more detail, to clarify, and perhaps even to pare back some of the more incredible-sounding truths that might strain the credulity of a European audience. He's looking for a compelling story, one that entertains and amazes, while you're striving for accuracy and recounting your reality. This tension between factual reporting and narrative appeal is one of the underlying dynamics that shape the book. You would describe the intricate administrative systems of the Mongol Empire, the efficient postal relays, the vast granaries, and the sophisticated canal networks. Rustichello, with his medieval European lens, would translate these marvels into terms understandable to his readers, often emphasizing the sheer scale and wealth, rather than necessarily the underlying technological or social principles which storm. For instance, your description of coal as black stones that burn like logs would have been a fascinating, almost magical, detail to a European audience unfamiliar with mineral fuel. One particularly striking and somewhat awful element that Rustichello would have emphasized for dramatic effect, perhaps even more than you intended, are the monsters and fantastical creatures you encountered? Or more accurately, the local legends and misunderstandings of exotic animals. While you might have described rhinoceroses or large serpents, Rustichello, playing to the popular taste of the time, might have rendered them as unicorns or dragons. This deliberate, or perhaps unintentional, embellishment blurs the line between eyewitness account and medieval fantasy, a source of endless debate for future historians. No, Rustichello. It was a beast with one horn. Yes, but more like a pig. Not a noble steed. You might protest, only for him to wave a dismissive hand, already imagining a gleaming white unicorn. This illustrates a common historical fact. Medieval travelogues often blended factual observation with mythical elements drawn from classical and popular traditions. The academic debate still fiercely contends with the question of Rustichello's influence on the final text. Was he merely a scribe? Or did he actively shape and perhaps even invent portions of the narrative? For literary flair scholars meticulously analyzed linguistic patterns and stylistic choices to try and separate Marco's likely direct observations from Rustichello's romanticized additions. This ongoing scholarly discussion is crucial to understanding the reliability and context of the travels. You would recount the sheer number of people in Cathay, the bustling markets, the intricate social hierarchies. You detail the religious tolerance of Kublai Khan, a concept perhaps foreign to the religiously homogeneous societies of Europe. You'd speak of the various peoples you encountered: the Uyghurs, the Tibetans, the Burmese, and the diverse tribes of India. Each anecdote, each observation, paints a picture of a world far richer, more complex, and more populous than any European could have conceived. The prison cell, ironically, became your first publishing house. With no distractions of commerce or travel, your sole focus was to externalize the decades of accumulated knowledge and experience. Rustichello, with his patient inquiries and literary skills, helped you unlock these memories, giving them form and structure. The manuscript, written in Old French, the lingua franca of chivalric romances and educated elites, was probably circulated in hand-copied versions even before you were released. Your release from Genoese captivity, likely around 1299, would have been a moment of profound relief. The book, or at least a significant portion of it, was likely completed or well underway by this point. You returned to Venice, no longer just a wealthy merchant, but now also the author or co-author of an extraordinary literary work. Your celebrity, initially born of skepticism, now begins to grow as copies of your description of the world slowly circulate throughout Europe. However, the awful aspect of this fame is the constant barrage of disbelief and ridicule. Even with the book in hand, many found your tale simply too fantastic to be true. You were nicknamed Il Milione, the Million, not necessarily in awe of your wealth, but in mockery of your supposedly million lies or exaggerations. Imagine being a man who has genuinely witnessed things beyond anyone's wildest dreams, only to be branded a fabulist and a liar by your own people. It must have been a frustrating and disheartening experience, a bitter counterpoint to the marvels you had seen. You'd likely grow tired of defending yourself, simply shrugging off the dismissive remarks with a weary sigh. Despite the skepticism, the book begins its slow, inexorable march across Europe. Copied by hand, translated into various languages: Latin, Italian, German, Castilian. It becomes a foundational text for cartographers, explorers, and scholars. Its influence is gradual but profound. It redraws the mental map of the world for Europeans, revealing the existence of vast, powerful empires and rich, technologically advanced societies far to the east. It sparks curiosity, ignites ambitions, and inspires a new generation of adventurers. The creation of the book is a testament to the power of storytelling. Your unique experiences, filtered through Rustichello's literary sensibility, created a narrative that transcended simple facts and entered the realm of legend. It demonstrated that personal observation, no matter how unbelievable it might seem to a provincial audience, could challenge existing worldviews and expand the horizons of human knowledge. This awful process of recounting, enduring skepticism, and seeing your life transformed into a written legend is, in many ways, the final and most enduring chapter of your adventure. Your life after the Genoese prison, while perhaps less outwardly adventurous, is nonetheless deeply shaped by your decades in the East. You settle back into Venice, a wealthy man, no doubt investing your treasures in properties and trade, attempting to resume the life of a successful merchant. But the man who returned is fundamentally different from the youth who left. You carry the vastness of Asia within you, a private map of wonders and horrors no one else in your city truly comprehends. The awful part of this final chapter isn't the physical hardship, but the unique burden of knowledge and experience that isolates you in your own familiar world. Despite the initial skepticism and the derisive nickname Il Milione, your book, The Travels of Marco Polo, slowly but surely begins its quiet revolution across Europe, hand-copied by scribes, translated into Latin, German, and other vernaculars. It spreads like a whispered rumor that blossoms into undeniable truth. Its influence is not immediate like a thunderclap, but rather a persistent, growing hum that eventually reshapes the European understanding of the world. For centuries, this book would be the primary source of European knowledge about the Far East, a monumental achievement for a man dismissed as a teller of tall tales. This enduring legacy comes with its own set of awful ironies. Imagine the frustration of knowing you've described things accurately, cities of millions, advanced technologies, sophisticated governance, only for the common folk and even some scholars to dismiss them as fantastical. You, the man who walked among emperors, are now merely a wealthy, eccentric Venetian, the very source of your fame. Your incredible truth is also the source of your isolation. One common historical fact is that Marco Polo married Donata Badoer and had 3 daughters, Fantina, Belela, and Moreta. You settle into the rhythms of Venetian family life, yet the memories of your adventures must constantly linger, perhaps shared only with your closest family, or in the quiet moments of your own reflection. The bustling canals and the familiar smells of Venice are home, but a part of your spirit forever resides in the vast plains of Mongolia, the towering Pamirs, and the vibrant courts of Cathay. The academic debate continues, even today, about the authenticity and accuracy of every detail in the travels. Scholars meticulously compare your descriptions with archaeological findings, Chinese historical records, and other contemporaneous accounts. Was Marco Polo truly at every location he describes? Did he truly hold all the positions he claimed in Kublai Khan's court? These questions fuel ongoing scholarly discussion, creating a rich tapestry of historical inquiry around your narrative, while some minor inconsistencies or embellishments are debated. The overall consensus among most historians is that the core of your account is genuinely based on first-hand experience. Making it an invaluable historical document, your final years are lived in relative comfort and prosperity. You probably continue to engage in trade, using your unique knowledge of Eastern markets to your advantage. You see Venice continue to thrive, its maritime power growing, its ships reaching further across the Mediterranean. But the true spirit of exploration, of stepping into the utterly unknown, has likely passed from you to others, inspired by your very words, as your life draws to a close. Perhaps in your Venetian home in the year 1394, surrounded by your family, you reflect on the incredible journey, the hardships, the dangers, the moments of despair. These fade into the background, superseded by the sheer wonder of what you witnessed. The faces of Kublai Khan, the bustling markets of Hangzhou, the endless desert dunes, the violent typhoons at sea. These images are etched into your memory. A private treasury of experience. Your death, a quiet end in Venice, stands in stark contrast to the epic scope of your life. Legend has it that on your deathbed, when urged by priests to retract your lies and confess the exaggerations in your book, you famously declared, "I have not told half of what I saw." This final defiant statement encapsulates the profound truth and the enduring impact of your awful adventures. It is a powerful affirmation that despite the doubts and skepticism, your experiences were real and perhaps even grander than the tale itself. The lights dim, and the soft hum of the fan fades into the quiet of the night. You've heard the tale of Marco Polo, A life lived on a scale almost unimaginable. A journey across continents and cultures, through hardship and luxury. It's a story that reminds us how vast and varied our world truly is, and how one man's courage and curiosity could bridge continents and reshape the very maps of human understanding. So, as you drift off, let the echoes of distant lands and ancient empires lull you to sleep, knowing that even the most awful adventures can lead to the most extraordinary discoveries.